Hello and welcome to my channel. Well, some of you asked me to do this stitch flat. I have a tutorial with this stitch that I worked only in rounds. When you work this one flat, it's not gonna look the same like the one in rounds. It's reversible, the stitch, this one. It's just one row repeat, that's it. This is the stitch. With this stitch you can chain any numbers of chains, odd, even, it doesn't matter. So I chain here just a small chain. I have 11 here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do in each chain single crochet. So we're gonna skip the first chain and into the second chain from the hook. We're gonna go in there and do a single crochet. And now I'm working with 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. So in each chain we're gonna do single crochet. Well, this stitch might not much will take yarn, maybe not so much like other stitches that will eat a lot of yarn, whatever crochet project you do. So single crochet in each chain, the last one. Okay, and now each time you're gonna chain 2. 1, 2, turn your work, and now we're gonna skip the first stitch here and we're gonna go into the second. We're gonna go into the second, pull up a loop, and then we're gonna go back to the first stitch that we skipped, pull up a loop. You have 3 loops on your hook, pull the yarn through all 3 loops. Now you're gonna go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, and now you're gonna go back to the stitch that you worked last. You're gonna pull up a loop, 3 loops, pull the yarn through all 3 loops. So you're gonna move to the next stitch, you're gonna do a you're gonna pull up a loop, and then you're gonna go back to this stitch that you worked last. Yeah. So go to the next stitch, pull up a loop, and now we're gonna go back to the stitch that we worked last. 3 loops, pull the yarn through all those 3 loops, and you're gonna do like this. Move to the next stitch, you're gonna pull up a loop, and we're gonna go back to the stitch that we worked last. 3 loops, pull the yarn through all 3 loops. So next stitch, and then you're gonna go back to the stitch that you skipped, where you worked last, not skipped. So you move to the next stitch, pull up a loop, and then we go back to the last stitch that we worked. I'm gonna go back there. So now this is the last stitch there. We're gonna do the same. We're gonna go through that, pull up a loop, and then you're gonna go back to the last stitch that you worked, and you pull up a loop, 3 loops, pull the yarn through all 3 loops. And now you have here like a line. We're gonna go there and we're gonna do through that line, we're gonna do a double crochet. So now you're gonna chain 2 again, turn your work, and now we're gonna skip the first stitch here and we're gonna go into the second. Yeah, second stitch, pull up a loop, and now we're gonna go back to the first stitch that we skipped, pull up a loop, 3 loops, pull the yarn through all 3 loops. And now you're gonna move to the next stitch and you're gonna pull up a loop, and then we're gonna go back to the stitch that we worked last, pull up a loop, pull the yarn through all 3 loops. Next stitch, and you go back to the last that you worked, and you're gonna do like this. Well, it's a easy stitch. Might eat a little bit more yarn than normal, so you're gonna have to be careful, the same like the working in rounds with this, not to go into this one, the one that you last worked. Yeah, so you're gonna have to be careful where you worked last. So the next stitch is here, pull up a loop, go back to the stitch that you worked, move to the next stitch, and go back to the last, and so on. So we have the last stitch here. We're gonna do the same. We're gonna go in there, pull up a loop, and then you're gonna go back to the stitch that you worked last, pull up a loop, pull the yarn through the 3 loops, and now you have the chain 2. So yarn over the hook into the top chain there. We're gonna go in there and do a double crochet. You're always gonna finish with a double crochet with this stitch. So again, chain 2, and you're gonna repeat. It looks like this. So one row you're gonna have like this, and the next you're gonna have this. But when you work in rounds, it's gonna be only this row here. Yeah, so depends which one you like. So you skip the first stitch and you go into the second stitch, pull up a loop, and go back to the stitch that you skipped, the first one, pull up a loop, 3 loops, pull the yarn through all 3 loops, and now you're gonna move to the next stitch and go back to the last one that you worked through, and so on. Yeah, it's a easy stitch, goes fast, and I think this is easy enough that you don't need to concentrate too much. It's just make sure that when you go to the next stitch, because it's so large, this one, you think that this one's the next. So especially in rounds, when you work this one, you might make mistake and put two of this in one stitch. So at the end, again, the last stitch, we're gonna do the same. Go in there, pull up a loop, go back to the stitch that you worked through, pull up a loop, 3 loops, pull the yarn through all 3 loops, yarn over the hook, and in the chain 2 on top of the second chain right here, you're gonna go and do a double crochet. You're gonna chain 2, and you're gonna repeat the row. So it looks like this. Yeah. Well, it's I think it looks much nicer, well, in rounds, and you'll have only this row in rounds, only this one here, not the round with the lines. When you work in rounds, you will choose which one you like, this one or the next one with these lines. Okay, well, thank you for watching. Have a good day. Bye bye.